When a police officer is faced with a deadly confrontation and has no other option but to fire their weapon, they are trained to shoot to kill, not to disarm, not to injure, but to stop the person through the use of deadly force. That's why tasers, a non-lethal alternative to guns, are on the belts of more than 500,000 police officers across the U.S. today.
It's designed to be a remote control for the human body, in the most simple terms. It fires out 2 darts with wires attached, and then it transmits electrical energy down the wires, not to electrocute anybody. It doesn't have enough power to do that. It runs on 2 batteries. But that electrical energy, if we tune it just the right way, it can fool your nerves into thinking your brain is sending signals to your muscles. But it's not your brain that's doing it. It's the remote taser device that's sending those signals. And what happens is all of the muscles in the body lock up and you are temporarily paralyzed.
That's Rick Smith, the CEO and founder of Axon Enterprise Incorporated and the author of The End of Killing: How Our Newest Technologies Can Solve Humanity's Oldest Problem. Smith's company, Axon, founded in 1991, is now the main supplier of tasers to law enforcement.
The thing that struck me was maybe there's a technology solution here. Bullets are kind of a medieval technology that are hundreds of years old. So I started to do some research and then lo and behold discovered a leading NASA scientist had been working on this device called the taser since the 1960s. He was 73 at the time and had retired. And I literally dialed 411 to get his phone number and just called him up. I was curious to say whatever happened to this taser thing. And next thing I know, he and I are hitting it off, and I convinced him to help me start a new company to try to take his invention forward. And we started out in his garage.
That scientist was Jack Cover. He thought up the idea for a taser stun gun and developed a rough prototype, which used gunpowder to propel electrified darts forward.
I'd say the biggest breakthrough, me working with the original inventor, Jack, was doing a lot of laboratory work to tune the shape and type of electricity specifically so that it could paralyze the muscles of your body so a person who's trying to attack you couldn't move. And we introduced that technology in the year 2000. And then after that, rapidly, taser weapons were deployed, and now they're used by agencies around the world.
In addition to tasers, Axon produces body cameras, including a new model providing streamable footage from the scene directly to police command centers, so that dispatchers and commanders can watch events unfold and give input in real time.
Body cameras really started out as a tool to help ensure the public that the police would treat them fairly, that there'd be a video of every incident. And a lot of this came actually after the Ferguson, Missouri incident with the shooting of Michael Brown, where nobody knows what happened except the one officer that was there. And, some people don't believe him. And so we felt, and Michael Brown's family called for the use of body cameras to protect the public interest so they could see what police were actually doing if they had to use force. We think it'll be pretty transformative to be able to not just, be using old school radio technology, but real-time audio and video.
Smith says these advancements in technology not only provide greater visibility to the public, but help keep officers safe in dangerous situations. Axon is also working on cutting-edge drone and artificial intelligence technology that aim to lessen human error and lead to better outcomes.
I think an innovative way to approach this is rather than trying to figure out how to fire some sort of taser dart a very long distance, is to mount an electrical weapon system onto a small drone, which you can send downrange. Because ultimately, if our goal is to prevent people killing each other, one way to do that is actually to keep police officers at a safer distance so that it's less likely they're going to feel the need to deploy lethal force. And one way to do that is by using some automated systems, whether drones or small robots. For the most dangerous situations, you can send those in first, so you're not putting a human life at risk as you assess, what the threat level is.
Smith acknowledges that advances in technology should be adopted slowly in order to test for potential shortfalls and prevent their misuse.
That we also want to be quite careful that we're building technology in a way that also protects people's privacy. For example, we've come out and said we're not supporting the use of facial recognition on body cameras because it's probably too intrusive to have every police officer around scanning every face of every person and logging that information. without some sort of probable cause for a search.
In the era of the Black Lives Matter movement, the use of excessive force is critiqued from every angle. But what happens when non-lethal alternatives don't work? When a taser fails to subdue its target, it can lead to grave consequences. A recent investigative report by American Public Media called into question the field effectiveness rate of the newer models of the taser produced by Axon. Smith says the company listens to feedback and is working to improve its technology through the release of its newest model, the Taser 7.
The issue that people are asking about relates to the current output. We've actually seen the focus shift. In the early years with taser weapons, there was much more focus on, is it outputting too much energy or is the taser itself hurting people? And what we're seeing now is the biggest risk is if it doesn't work, then police escalate to their firearms. And I actually agree with that. The biggest risk with the taser today is the risk of ineffective use. And so we've been spending a lot of our R&D on how do we better penetrate the clothing, how do we make it more accurate.
Finely tuning the electrical current output is a work in progress, and its effectiveness in each scenario is also dependent on varying environmental factors.
I think it's really important that agencies and trainers and use of force reviewers understand what the historic limitations of the device are, and in their training programs make sure that the officers understand that often in real life the taser is deployed from too close to the subject, and it's important to get a good spread between the probes in order to involve as much of the neuromuscular system as you can.
That's Greg Meyer, a retired captain from the Los Angeles Police Department. Meyer worked for the LAPD for 30 years, both as a patrolling officer and in administrative capacities. He's been a long-time advocate for tasers, having to use them himself while working in the field.
You were really glad you had it. I mean, when we had guys with a butcher knife standing us off and being able from 10 or 12 feet away to actually deploy the taser and have them fall down and drop the knife and get safely handcuffed. I mean, that was a tremendous satisfying feeling that you were able to resolve the incident without having to get into a shooting.
In the late 1970s, he was the LAPD's primary researcher on non-lethal weapons. Even today, he says there are several elements at play when a taser is deployed on a target.
Especially in your colder environments, people tend to wear heavier, thicker clothing, and the taser probes, when they deploy on a person's clothing, the idea is for the electricity to jump the gap and go into a person's body in order to do the incapacitation that's desired. But if the clothing's too thick, that's not going to happen.
Meyer says that extensive officer training on how to properly use tasers is vital, and there's always room for improvement from both Axon and law enforcement agencies.
I think it's incumbent on the company, Axon, to continue to produce the best product that they can that's, the greatest chance of effectiveness in the street to allow the officer, when it's appropriate, to incapacitate somebody, certainly. But the police training continues to be an important part of the process.
But how often do police encounter an ideal situation? The taser is a complicated tool, but can be an effective method at subduing a target without the use of lethal force. To find out more about this topic and our guests, visit viewpointsradio.org. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter @ViewpointsRadio, and subscribe and listen to our show anytime wherever you listen to podcasts. This segment is written and produced by Amira Zaveri. I'm Gary Price.
Electric scooters are fun, easy to use, and seemingly all over the streets. But several new studies find that e-scooters are also causing a growing number of serious injuries. One study by the CDC shows that 45% of those hurt have head injuries, while another 27% have broken arms, wrists, or hands. Half of those hurt say a pothole or a crack in the street caused their crash. Dr. Vidor Friedman is president of the American College of Emergency Physicians.
Emergency physicians are treating an increasing number of scooter-related injuries. Many of these are serious and can be life-changing, but many of these injuries are avoidable. The number one thing you can do to avoid serious injury is to wear a helmet. Scoot safe and avoid an emergency.
Studies show that about a third of those hurt are first-time scooter riders. Dr. Friedman advises to start slowly, follow the rules of the road, and be an alert rider. More safety tips are online at emergencycareforyou.org/scootsafe.
New research shows that healthy lifestyle choices may dramatically reduce the risk of dementia. 5 studies presented at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference 2019 in Los Angeles show that lifestyle factors such as a healthy diet and exercise may even counteract genetic risks for dementia. Dr. Maria Carrillo is Chief Science Officer at the Alzheimer's Association.
While there is no proven cure or treatment for Alzheimer's, a large body of research now strongly suggests that combining healthy habits promotes good brain health and reduces your risk of cognitive decline.
Along with a healthy diet and exercise, steps such as building a cognitive reserve through formal education and cognitively stimulating jobs also help provide maximum memory benefit. The new research suggests that adopting 4 or 5 healthy lifestyle factors rather than none or only one may reduce the risk of Alzheimer's dementia by nearly 60%. Find out more at alz.org.
Thank you for listening to Viewpoints Radio, a production of Media Tracks Communications. If you enjoyed this broadcast, please support our show by subscribing, sharing it with a friend, and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. You can find more Viewpoints stories on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and viewpointsonline.net. Also, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Viewpoints Radio. Coming up next week.
15 years ago, no one had a cell phone, and now it's like 96% of the population have one.
Teaching kids how to live responsibly in the era of everything digital. Then,
yes, honey, that person has beautiful brown skin, and we don't point at people. That's not polite.
The importance of discussing race and diversity early on. I'm Marty Peterson.
And I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.